Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of On Point. It has been a while. I think the last one was about 2 months ago, and I realize that has been quite some time. But I don't know. Haven't really been feeling it lately. I've been doing a lot more game streaming, so maybe some of you have been following that over on DLive. I'm actually multi-broadcasting right now to both YouTube and DLive, as I usually do the podcast on both channels. I've kind of just been using DLive as I don't want to say strictly gaming channel, because I do run the podcast there when I have it, but that's where I've been doing the majority of my streaming. Let's just say that. So if you haven't yet, or you have some reservations about it, maybe just, check it out, dlive.tv/scratchpoint, and that's where you'll find me most of the time. YouTube, I still post stuff occasionally when I get the feeling to, put out a video or do one of these podcasts. And I see some of you guys here already. Hey, Blasto. Hey, iSmite. What's up, guys? Thanksgiving is coming soon, so I thought, this is actually not Thanksgiving related at all, but I thought that since it's food related, that would be a decent segue into that topic. Let me see if I have the browser running correctly here. I'm almost choking on my own breath. Let me get a drink of water. But anyway, let me pull this up. Okay, so it's been like months since I've done this, and obviously I'm forgetting how to run a show. How come that one doesn't show it? Oh, must be browser too. So I'm gonna pull up the tweet here for your example. Let me see. Why isn't it working? Oh, there we go. All right. Now that it's up. That's not the correct one. All right. So this started because of those tweets that get passed around where it's like, oh, give me your controversial take on insert topic. So this one was about food. So like, give me your controversial food topic. I probably should have just pulled up the actual post, but before I started up, I was talking about it a little bit, so I just pulled up mine for reference. So basically, the guy replies with something to the effect of, Indian food sucks, and we pretend it doesn't, or something like that. Me personally, I've had a few dishes before. They were all right. I mean, it was chicken related, so it's kind of hard to fuck that up. But in general, I haven't had that many dishes, and I'm not sure, there's like Americanized versions of things, so I'm not sure how authentic my experience was. But this sent people, to pull out the pitchforks and, go after the guy, try to lynch him over an opinion on food, when the post itself was literally asking for a controversial, take. And that's what he gave. So to react that way when you're going through a thread looking for those types of takes is just insane to me, because it's like, yeah, that's the point. The posts are supposed to be controversial. It's supposed to instill this, feeling inside of you where you're like, goddamn this guy, he's a fucking asshole, And that's exactly what happened. But, people were taking it as, oh, he's fucking racist, blah, blah, blah. He's not respecting other cultures. Like, get the fuck out of here. Do you know how often people trash on, for example, American food? And that's perfectly fine. There's a lot of it that is absolute shit. Thank you guys, Scud and Alfarius. I do see you over on DLive. Thank you for the donations. I appreciate that. But those things are absolute trash. Like, there's plenty of things in American cuisine that are absolute trash. It's just a bunch of fried shit put together. One of my least favorite things is like the fair foods, the state fairs where they basically go out of their way to dunk whatever concoction in batter and just fry the shit out of it, and they want to pretend that like this novelty thing is very good when obviously it's like a heart attack in a basket, and people enjoy that shit, and that's fine, whatever. But are we really just going to pretend that that all food is equal, it's all just as good as everything else, or that just because it comes from another culture, it has to be respected, it has to be good, or if you don't like it, you're somehow against the people that produce it as a whole? That is absurdity to me. That is insane. It's getting to the point where you can't even have contrary opinions on food. And look, there's something that has bothered me for as long as I've talked to other people, because they try to, there's so many people that do this. They want to pretend like they're so sophisticated, they're so superior just because they like more different types of food than you, or they're so open-minded about food, like, I'll try anything once. It's like, all right, I mean, if that's what you want to do, that's fine, but what do I care? Why do I have to do the same thing as you do, or else that somehow means, I'm not as cultured, I'm not as sophisticated as you. It's like these pretentious jackasses that just want to pretend that enjoying food, a personal preference about what they put into their body, somehow automatically makes them a more sophisticated person. It just has always been unbelievable to me. And it's one of those things that you hate even talking about because it seems so petty. It's like, I've never cared. Like, sure, I have opinions on food. I think some of it is absolute shit. I think some of it's great, just like everybody else. But the point is, I don't care what somebody else is eating because I don't have to taste it. So if I don't like it, it's fine if you eat it because I'm not forced to. Do you not understand this? Like, what's so hard? What is so hard about that? And it's funny because, these are the people that expect, conformity when it comes to more important issues like political opinions and such. And it's like, you motherfuckers can't even get along based on a difference of opinion in food. And you expect us to all sit back and agree about actual important issues. It's mind-blowing. Like, the mental disconnect there is just mind-blowing to me. And I'm never going to really understand these people that want to pretend that everything is the same, that everything is just as good as everything else. But of course, that doesn't apply when they want to bash on something. Then it's perfectly okay. Then it's completely real and valid to put things, on some things on a pedestal and some things below it. It's like we all have our fucking preferences about what we eat. Is it really that big of a deal? Yeah, I heard about the whole shirt thing. I'm actually going to talk about that a little bit. If you have some sort of relevant article on that or whatever, feel free to link it. But I was just going to pull up a brief tweet that I commented on a little bit later on. But I'll get into that later because I do want to talk about that as well. I mean, look, when it comes down to it, it's like, that is a goofy ass shirt, but are we really going to make that big of a deal about it? But yeah, this food thing, it's absurd. It's silly. I can't get outraged at somebody because they don't like food from a specific culture. And I think that kind of makes sense. I mean, yeah, okay, trying things on occasion, that's all well and good to maybe expand your horizons a little bit here and there if you want to. But who cares? At the end of the day, does it really make that much of a difference? And to, act like we're all going to like the same things is just, that's crazy to me. I feel like I had one more thing on this topic before I move on, but I'm probably going to remember it after I've already moved on. Did you see the guy who acted like he was a hero for putting an extra chicken nugget in fast food orders? Yeah, I did. I did see that. Yeah, because he was the guy that he went and called PewDiePie. I guess PewDiePie put it in one of his videos, the post. And then after that, he had to disavow PewDiePie and say, well, this guy, he doesn't get an extra nugget because he's a Nazi sympathizer. And it's like, oh, all right. I mean, look, whenever I see, this is how bad that it's gotten when somebody uses the new N-word. It's like, I have to go to that person and see what they're all about, because I know for a fact that they're not going to come up as somebody that fits the actual description. That's how sad that we have become, where that word is basically just like somebody that psychotic progressives disagree with, who's probably not all that bad of a person. It has no meaning, zero meaning. In fact, it may have gotten so bad that it even has the opposite meaning. It's like, oh yeah, that's just somebody that doesn't conform to mainstream narratives, because apparently anybody that doesn't take everything the media says as gospel is a Nazi. I apologize, I'm losing my voice here. Might not have been the best time to podcast, because I think even after I've been sick for like a month and a half, I think I'm coming down with another cold, which I really don't want that to happen, because I was at the doctor the other day and they said that like it could make the lingering bronchitis act up again. So that's going to suck balls. But here we are. All right. What else? I know I've got a couple things here. There's the Stadia shit. I guess I had that on the bar a little bit later on, but we can get into that. So, everybody knows about Stadia by now, I guess. And I've posted against it multiple times, just because I think on a fundamental level, game streaming, or I should say video games as a service, which is what it's sort of, come to be known as, I think is a bad idea. Completely horrible idea. I think it's one of those things that trick people into thinking it's good because it's quote unquote convenient. And it's also one of those things that gets labeled as like, oh, this is the future of X industry. And so in this case, gaming industry, it's like, well, can we hold on and maybe dial it back for a minute and think a little bit, critically, and say, okay, well, just because this is new technology or this is a new idea, does that mean that it's automatically a good one? And I mean, people have been since it launched, people have been coming out with complaints like the library sucks, there's lag, there's horrible graphical differences. So they didn't even bother to put out, a decent product under the guise of this money grab. And obviously all businesses are about, profit at the end of the day. I get that. But this, to me, is completely against the spirit of the consumer, the side of the consumer. This to me benefits the company more than anybody else. And I think when, you have the sort of product like that video games are, it kind of has to be like a middle ground. You need to provide a good product that customers are going to want to purchase. And I also think that once you make that purchase, you should be able to own the product. Now, with a company like Google, if you're just streaming, which effectively means you are renting these games, right? Because it's on a digital library, that means that you don't really own them, right? I mean, if the service dies tomorrow, you don't have those games. So it's also one of those things where it's like, this is Google we're talking about, right? I mean, they run YouTube. We know what they do there. They censor people. They get rid of accounts based off of bad opinions. Is that going to happen with video games? Are you gonna say the wrong thing in a chat, or I don't even know if it has a chat service, but even if it's like somehow listening in, I just feel like the privacy, and this guy here, I had to look, because when I saw this, they had posted a meme it was a garbage meme. First of all, it was basically saying that anybody that was trashing Stadia was against having fun. And it's like, You're defending a service that is, at the end of the day, completely anti-fun, not only because it's a crap release, but also because you're just throwing money down an empty hole and never actually owning the products. I really don't like almost just about anything that is a subservice. I know things like Netflix and whatnot have been sort of normalized as the in thing, and to a degree, I don't even like those that much because, you're just throwing money away. It goes down the bottomless pit. But at least those services are functional, and, regardless of what you may think of the politics of the companies or the things that they choose to fund, they do at least deliver an experience that, if you enjoy the content, is watchable. But I had to check this account because I was like, wait a minute, is that an official account? And I went to it and I'm like, oh, no, it's not. Because this dude was on some sort of rant about, how people that didn't like it were just haters. I'm like, are we really at the point where, billions of dollars these mega corporations have, they need random individuals sort of spurging out and defending them blindly? You see that a lot with, with Disney or Marvel, the people that are sort of completely soy-filled and just want to consume product. And I feel like we have a lot of that. There's so much of this empty consumerism that it's gotten to the point where it's just like, you don't criticize this, just purchase, just enjoy. What is wrong with you people? Have you completely lost the ability to think for yourselves, to use your brain and just be like, well, okay, this thing is being advertised as this, but does it actually meet these standards? It's mind-blowing. And it's funny because often it's like the same type of people that are like, yeah, eat the rich, fuck them all, capitalism is shit. It's like, well, for people that are against all of that, you sure play into blindly supporting companies that take in ridiculous amounts of money while providing absolute shit for service. So yeah, I'm really tired of the whole just because this is new technology, we should be blindly accepting of it. I'll just read the last point that he makes here. People completely forget these points and just think people are going to keep paying out for new consoles and upgrading PCs every couple of years. LOL. Hardware like consoles and PCs have at least 15 years left, maybe 20, but game streaming is the future regardless. So there it is. There's that thing where it's like, this is the future, therefore you have to accept it. And I feel like that happens with so many things. Because often you'll see things where it's like, somebody will say, this is the future, you'll be left behind, X is the future. So what? Where did we get into this mindset where just because something is new, it's inherently good? And I don't believe for a moment that people would stop all of a sudden after all these years. How long has the gaming industry been around selling consoles? You had like Atari and television and things like that, even way, way back in the day. So people have been buying consoles for a long ass time. Why would they suddenly stop? The only way they're going to stop is if the companies themselves decide, hey, you know what? We can just drain everybody of all their money for all eternity by putting out a subscription service for streaming, and we don't actually have to provide a physical product anymore. That's the only way that people are going to stop buying consoles or PCs, is when these companies stop providing them. Because we have the history before us that shows that people will continue to buy consoles for as long as they're around. And it's absurd. It's just completely absurd. I'll stick with the past if that's the future. Yeah, that's how I feel about it. It's like if it comes to the point where physical copies are no more, consoles are no more. I don't want to say PCs because I think PCs obviously have other uses, but gaming PCs, we'll say. If all those things somehow get eradicated by the quote-unquote future of gaming that is streaming, then I'm done. I'm not just going to blindly go along with the crowd because, oh, I can't live without this. No, I can live without it. There are enough games in the backlog of the history of gaming to enjoy video games until the day I die. I don't need shiny new product, which in this case is basically just shit wrapped in gold lining, because I think a lot of heart that used to go into gaming is now gone in favor of politics. And it's a generalization in a sense, because there are still games that resonate with me, but I think they're a lot fewer and farther between, and they're certainly not coming from Western companies, because now they're far more agenda-driven than they've ever been. They're more concerned with these stupid checkboxes, like, oh, how diverse is this game? Well, who gives a fuck? Not me. I know a lot of people that don't care about just shoehorning identities into a video game with no concern for the quality of the game itself. Does anybody in the world, aside from like these complete lifeless soy pods, play video games for the illusion of representation, which is just a complete mockery of everything that we were taught not to believe growing up, which is that one person of a certain identity can be a stand-in for the entirety of them? Like, since when was that not offensive? Since when was it not considered offensive to have like one queer or one black guy or one woman and say, this is representation, and if you happen to share this characteristic with this character, that's enough for you? Because as far as I knew, it used to be considered offensive to consider one individual a stand-in for the group. Now, whether you agree or disagree with that, they're going against their own established narrative. It's like, no, now we don't ignore those things. We don't just try to treat everybody the same way regardless of those things. We hyper-focus on them and then pretend... Wait, did I get somehow muted? Uh-oh. What happened? No? Okay. All right. Just making sure. Yeah, so we hyper-focus on these identities and point them out and include them in every aspect, and then get mad at others when they focus on the same things for themselves. And it's just hypocritical. It's like, well, listen, if you think these things are so important, then that means everybody is going to value them. I hope that it's not a connection issue with me, but it looks like my connection is strong, so it's probably, unfortunately, a DLive issue, which sucks because there's not much I can do about that. Yeah, my connection's running really good. But yeah, we went a little bit off the rails there, but to me, Stadia is a no-go. I'm definitely not going to, put any effort or money into this. And I'm going to continue to try to tell people that this is a bad idea. Because, look, it's not a new thing for companies to try to control what you do with the product even after you purchase it. For example, Nintendo, even back from the NES days, they would say, well, just because you own the cartridge, it doesn't mean you can make a copy of the game or of like a backup or whatever. And it's like they're trying to control something, a piece of plastic and a chipboard inside that is in your hands after you've purchased it from them. And that was basically just a threat back then, because, you have the product in your hand. You could do whatever you want with it. If you want, you could take a golf club to it and smash the shit out of it. But now it's digital. So it's far easier for these corporations to control what you do with their product even after you've made a purchase, even after you continuously throw money at them for a subscription. Don't mind streaming in the sense of, say, NVIDIA Shield or whatever. Well, that's where it's you can stream it to a different like product, basically, kind of like PlayStation TV, where it's like you have the games on your console, but you can stream it to the PlayStation TV thing or whatever. But yeah, if it's like a paid service where, you know, the games are all on said service and you have to pay for it to access them, and if you stop paying, you no longer have access, that sucks. But I can see the convenience of something like that. Okay, Stadia. I think we're done with that. Oh, so this is just a little aside that I'm not going to focus on too much, but this is like more brain dead takes, and it's just people that have a major issue with the rich. And look, I'm not going to pretend that all rich people are bastions of morality or great people. You know, they're not. I've met a lot of people with money, or I've seen a lot of people with money that do stupid or awful things, or just completely removed from reality because they live an entirely different, you know, lifestyle. So either they were born into it and they've never known what it's like to be poor, or, you know, they started out maybe poor and got to a point where they started to become too good for everybody else because they forgot where they came from. So those things happen. But the takes that I've seen on this topic are just wild. How can you get mad at somebody? Hey, Spore Summit, we're just doing the show. How can you get mad at somebody for donating $98.5 million? And I saw a lot of takes where, similar to this one, where they're trying to be like, oh, well, this is the percentage of his net worth, which, by the way, that's not how net worth works. That's like, net worth is just a collection of, you know, all the person's assets added up. It's not actually money that they have in the bank. I don't know how much money the guy has. I'm sure it's an absurd amount. But still, you're misrepresenting when you say things like that. So they're trying to do this like percentage comparison where it's like, oh, well, since this is his wealth amount, this is actually only the percentage of his wealth that he gave up. So this comparison is just completely insane. Think about this. If you make $50,000 a year and you give away 45, how on earth is that comparable to $98.5 million? And I get it. You know, I'm not a fan of like random rich celebrities. Like this is the Amazon guy, for anybody that doesn't know, Jeff Bezos, which I don't care about this guy. What do I give a shit? But rather than trying to criticize something that is just like, I don't even know how you argue with, because even if you want to say his motive is not pure, which I don't know, I'm not inside his head, it may not be. Even if you want to say, oh, he's going to get a massive tax write-off for this, which I don't know, he might. That's not the point. Aren't people still getting the help regardless of the motive of the person that did it? Like, if you have a problem with the guy, whatever that may be, just admit that even if he does something good, you're never going to like him, and move on with your life. That's fine. Just say you don't like him. That's it. I don't understand why people have to come up with all these ways why it's like, it's still bad to do charity. It's like, no, it's still bad. No, oh, well, maybe his motives aren't 100% pure. Still bad. No, if the money is actually going where it needs to go to assist the people that it's supposed to assist, that's a good thing. And I hate having to be the one to put that take out there, because I don't care about some rich dude and, you know, his integrity. The rich are mostly pro-open borders, so that, but people talking about this are Marxist. Yeah, that's shit too. It's like, it's kind of like, you know, the celebrities that are like, yeah, we're for let them all in, but we live in gated communities. It's the same idea. But yeah, I don't see the problem here. It's more just trying to come up with issues because you don't like someone. It's like the whole Trump thing, where it's like, even if the guy does something that's good for everybody in some way, you still have those people that are going to shit on it or find issue with it, rather than just admitting, I hate this guy and I'll never appreciate anything he does, regardless of, where you can put it on the scale of good. That's how I feel about it. It's like, if you don't like him, you don't like him, and you don't have to acknowledge anything that he did, but to try to come up with ways it's bad is fucking stupid. Oh, did I? Okay. What else do we have on the agenda? Oh, I guess I could touch on this a little bit, even though I haven't done like a video or touched on it in any stream before. The whole like Turning Point USA thing with conservatives and trying to, I guess, quote unquote, gatekeep and whatnot. How many even gave 45? Yes, that's a good point. Well, yeah, and it's kind of amazing. It's like, all right, even if you want to say that that's not a significant portion of his money, it's still way more than most of us are ever going to have in our entire life. All the earnings that we put together in our entire life will probably never reach that amount, unless we get really lucky and come up with a successful product like that. But I made this offhanded joke because of the whole Turning Point USA thing, that conservatives are just progressives on 0.5 playback speed. I'm referencing the YouTube 0.5 playback speed. And what I mean by that is, it seems as though rather than trying to conserve any values, that these people just kind of agree with the left, but they do it at a slower pace. Where it's like, now, instead of focusing on the issues, now this dude, Charlie Kirk here, goes and he parades around, the gay black conservative veteran. It's like, how many check boxes are we hitting here? It's like, now you're using the same tactics of like, oh, look at this guy. We have diversity too. It's like, okay, I kind of see what you're doing in the sense of maybe you're trying to pull more people who otherwise would ignore you based on those factors of like, oh, it's just for white people, we have no place here, or whatever. Or it's just for straight people, we have no place here. But why would you want to appeal to people that are so insane that they think the only way that they can have certain beliefs is if they have a token that will spout them first? I don't know. It's kind of crazy to me. Michael Malice has a similar joke. Conservatives are progressive, driving the speed limit. Yeah, that's pretty good. That is actually pretty good. The only thing they conserve is the pocketbooks of their donors in Israel. Yeah, I mean, it's like it's obviously bought and paid for opinions under the guise of sort of spreading these ideas, but it's still a controlled narrative. They still obviously only wanted to have these Q&As to quote unquote debate the leftists, and when they were presented with ideas that they had no idea how to argue, they freaked out. They pulled the same. This is the part that's mind blowing to me. They pulled the same tactics of the people that they usually decry as deplatforming them, suppressing their ideas, by going and calling people like Nick Fuentes and, people who have similar views, Nazis and anti-Semites and all this other shit, Holocaust denier, all this other shit. And you know what's mind-blowing to me? I haven't said this anywhere, but I guess I'll say it here. Nobody has done more for Holocaust denial than these people, than Turning Point. Because the more you act like these topics are untouchable, the more you're going to play into the idea that there's a reason why you don't want anybody talking about these things. And that, to me, is like, regardless of what your personal takes are on this, and I'm sure they're varied, it doesn't matter. What matters is that they're blocking out the discussion in the same way that the stuff that you know that happens to them from the left. It's like, you guys got called Nazis all the time from the left. You complained about your free speech being taken away. You complain about being deplatformed from these services. And yet, when somebody says something you don't like, you go and you react the very same way as your enemies. That is just insane to me. It's like, you should know, if you really held the principles that you were spouting at these talks, you would never try to use the term Nazi to get people deplatformed. And I see what they're doing. They're kind of doing this whole, well, in this case, it's different because these are actual Nazis. It's like, all right, but don't you understand that the people that say that about you probably genuinely believe that you are, because they're so insane that they've warped the definitions of these terms? And you're doing your opposition's work for them by doing this. It's crazy. It's crazy how either they don't see it or they don't care. I'm not sure which. Probably a combination of the two, depending on who they are. But that's wild. I think these guys are pathetic. I think if you have strongly held beliefs, it's not difficult to, combat ideas you disagree with. And of course they're like, well, it's a waste of time and blah, blah, blah. But I don't think it's a waste of time. Even if you thought the people you're debating aren't going to change their mind, if you thought it was important to have your official narrative out there, then you would talk about it for the onlookers in the audience so that they understood where you were actually coming from, instead of just saying, oh, you're a racist, you're a Nazi, this is an untouchable topic, how dare you. Absolutely pathetic behavior from these guys, and I don't see why anybody could take them seriously. It's like, all right, if you want to give them some credit in the sense that they're like, for lack of a better term, baby's first red pill or whatever, fine, maybe, but they're still putting out misinformation by slandering people. So I don't know how much you can really appreciate that anymore when these guys do that shit. What else do we have on the agenda? I know there's a couple more things. Oh, didn't mean to do that. Let's see. Okay. I guess we're going to try to get... Oh, you know what? While I was on the Stadia topic, there was one thing I missed. So let's go over that real quick before we move on completely. We'll bounce back to Stadia for a sec. I don't know how many people saw this, but this is crazy. Google promotes gender-neutral controller as Stadia's selling point. Now, if you thought the release couldn't get any worse, if you thought the focus was completely off, this is the last nail in the coffin that really just goes to show you that these people have no idea what the actual gaming audience wants from a company. It's like, you're so lost. You're just so lost if you think that the color of a controller is so important that you have to gender it. How do you even gender a controller? Is it because maybe the USB charger that plugs into it is the male side or the female side? Maybe they need a non-binary plug. Is that how that works? I don't know. I've just never looked at a controller and thought, this is for men or this is for women. It's like, no, that's the controller you use to play the games, and regardless of what you are, you have to use it. N64 control is a dude. I could see that, I guess. This is officially Google's Pippin, a miserable attempt at getting into the console market. Yeah, this is really sad. Well, let's see what their reasoning is. In the lead up to the launch of Google's new Stadia console, members of the Stadia team promoted the gender-neutral quality of the system's controller as a selling point for the flagship hardware. I kind of feel like, as dumb of a selling point as I believe this is, that it might actually be one for the people that are retarded enough to think this is a good idea in the first place. You know, just this consume product crowd that's all about this whole appealing to identity rather than just putting out quality stuff. In an interview with CNN Business, Google VP and head of Stadia Phil Harrison boasted that the Stadia controller's design was different from some of our historical competitors in the console space, who have been a bit more masculine and a bit more mechanical in their approach. Does anybody remember Nintendo? Because I seem to remember, like, Wii, the controllers came in multiple colors. Switch, the console, one of the consoles, the one I have, it's like the blue and the red Joy-Con. Even if you go back to Game Boy Advance, the original model of the Game Boy Advance was purple. This is not innovative. This is not new. The only difference is, like, nobody came out and said, "Oh, this is a female controller," or "This is a gender-neutral approach to controller." It's just buzzwords. The controller is offered in 3 different colors: white, black, and a light green wasabi color, chosen for its universal appeal, according to Google Director of Design Isabel Olsen, who found out that both men and women gravitated towards this color. I'm surprised they didn't just do black and brown. She praised the fact that it ended up being super gender neutral, but still really expressive, as it's really hard to find colors like that. Coming to a Stadia near you, the competitor for Super Mario Bros., super gender neutral. Feeling spicy? Our wasabi controller is now available everywhere you can buy Stadia. Oh, that's terrible. In a short promotional video, Google industrial designer Jason Pai states that the controllers were intentionally made to be easier for smaller hands to grip, specifically noting that the controller was made for small and large hands, so it's super usable for the large segment of gamers that aren't always appreciated. I'm guessing that the quote-unquote large segment of gamers in their head who aren't appreciated is anybody that's not a male. Because that's how these people think. And instead of being concerned with just, like, you know, mass appeal and quality of the product that they're putting out, they're just like, oh, we got to pander because apparently that's just the reality of this society now. I mean, if you think about it, marketing is all about pandering anyway, but it's just kind of crazy to me that this is where we're at, where it's like the perceived gender of a controller is the concern in our lives. It's like that is the first worldiest of first world problems, and it's a problem that I don't recall anybody ever having. And if they did, it was relegated to the corner of the internet on some random Tumblr where people were just complaining about bullshit that doesn't matter to anybody with half a brain. But yeah, that's wait, let's see. Is there more? There is a little bit more. The promotion of the controller's coloring as gender neutral also seems slightly patronizing, as controllers have been offered. Oh, okay. Well, they're touching on what I touched on. Since 5th generation, it's been earlier than that because, yeah, I mean, I guess that's probably around Game Boy Advance. Allowing for players to, regardless of gender identity. Oh my God, do people really pick like that though? As where it's like, I'm a girl, so therefore I have to buy this color controller? Because I don't think that's how that works. I think it's just like, I'm a person and I like this color, so I'm just gonna buy it. Does it really matter what they are? Why the fuck couldn't they just state that their Stadia controller has good ergonomics for anyone that picks it up? Because they have to throw in that whole shit of like, oh, these underappreciated gamers. How does that even make any sense? How are you underappreciated if you're buying the product and taking part in the hobby just like everybody else? The future of gaming looks bleak, in my opinion. I agree. I mean, if this is the future, none of us are going to be very happy, except for the people that are just like blindly buy everything that, you know, companies put out just because it's new. The people that are more, they're more concerned with having the latest tech than the quality of it. There's a lot of people like that. I mean, you got people that line up for iPhones, for fuck's sake. That's just sad. Just kind of sad. Let's see what else we got. Let me just check. Do I want to get into that? Yeah, I guess. This might be a quick one. But I thought it was ridiculous nonetheless. Let's see. Does the bio give away anything? Well, she, her pronouns and smut. That's just what we need. All right. So, remember how I took down the binary bathroom signs at my old job when I left? Guess who's permanently banned from setting foot on their property again? Guess which manager that always referred to me as a man made the call? Guess who found this out at the company Friendsgiving? I don't know what a Friendsgiving is, but that sounds terribly gay. Oh my God. So, person steals signs off of a bathroom to be petty, and then is somehow surprised when they're banned from ever returning there. I mean, even though it's like, a petty theft, I'm sure they could have called the cops on this individual. Oh, look at that. View replies the tweet author has hidden. I wonder. You know what? I'm completely disillusioned with reality at this point. How in the world do we live in a civilization that has accepted that this is a woman? Look at the jaw. Look at the facial features. That's not a woman. That is not a woman at all. All right, so they go on. My friends invited me to come visit with them, and the company's got enough cowards in it that I didn't find out until I was just outside the door, and had my old supervisor explain to me that I had been banned by management staff and there was nothing she could do. Well, what did you think they were going to do? Call you up and say, "Oh, you're banned"? Why would they need to do that if they don't know that you're coming back ever? That's what places do. If you show up on the premises, they tell you. It's no problem. It's not the first time I've been banned from attending Thanksgiving by people I thought were family. I'm guessing that's some bullshit, narrative about how their family didn't accept them because they wanted to switch genders. Friendly reminder that it's literally never about bathroom signs. It's about whether or not we're allowed to exist. Okay, this part drove me insane when I read this. We fought for our rights by beating cops and setting their cars on fire. Disobedience is woven in the fabric of our lineage. These people are out of their minds. This is a mentally deranged individual. What is this we bullshit? You did nothing. This person was likely not even born. I imagine they're referring to Stonewall riots or whatever. But this is the craziest thing I've ever read. How are you going to go and, regardless of what you think of that whole situation, how are you going to go and take credit for it? What is this we shit? You didn't do anything. This to me is somebody that wants to be part of something so badly, wants to be one of these marginalized people because apparently there's some sort of inherent morality in feeling like you're oppressed, which is absolute bullshit. They have no lineage. They cannot reproduce. Yes, that is absolutely true. And you know what? That's a good thing. But I feel like we're headed towards a very dystopian future because there's even been articles put out where they're trying to they're getting to the point where they're trying to put a womb in trans people, which is just that's the biggest waste of scientific resources I've ever heard in my life. System gave this guy his rights. He didn't fight for shit. Exactly. He did absolutely nothing, but yet wants to take credit for something that, he wasn't even around for. And now it's just like, oh, this is really honestly how to say, it's sort of like a thing for people with no sense of individual identity. And I'm not saying you can't appreciate your so-called lineage, which doesn't even apply in this situation anyway. But you have to have some sort of fundamental basis for yourself. So this is absurd to me that it's like a void, and people try to fill it with all of these useless things to feel like they're much more important than they actually are. And that's a person that is never going to find their personal fulfillment because they're looking in all the wrong places. Maybe we're getting a little bit armchair psychologist here, but I feel like this take is a little bit better than the modern psychology take, which is just like, oh yeah, somebody said there's something, so we need to enable them at every cost, and everybody else has to play along, all for their benefit. It's like it's the clown world. It's literal clown world. Also, that me nabbing bathroom signs and being put on the do not rehire list is nothing compared to our grandparents bricking cops and going to jail for it. You should be in jail for theft. Oh, and this part is, I don't know if this is real, but sadly, I wouldn't be surprised that people are sending this moron money for, also, to the extremely law-abiding citizens who merely have some concerns, please continue blowing up my post. I've already received several monetary donations and new buyers for my smut. Thank you for your service. Yeah, who said crime doesn't pay? Look at this. I mean, I don't know if these are real. I wouldn't be surprised if it was staged, but then at the same time, I also wouldn't be surprised if people are actually doing that whole solidarity, fuck the system thing. It's like, get the fuck out of here. Just get out. You are worthless. You're a piece of garbage. You have no place in this world. I'm tired of this whole everybody has to enable the delusions of entitled people that think that they can just do whatever they want when they want. We all have impulses, okay? We all sometimes want to do things to get back at somebody that we feel like has wronged us, but you have to have some semblance of control over your behavior. It's just stupid. Completely stupid. You can't, for as much as we want to sometimes, you can't just go batshit crazy and do whatever you want. And the worst part is like they don't even really have a leg to stand on, because I'm not seeing this whole, society's suppressing me thing. It's like, no, pretty much everywhere you look, maybe individuals aren't buying it, but the quote-unquote system is kind of getting to a point where they're like, yeah, this is real, this is valid, every claim you make is a big concern. Other people have to adhere to the rules that you've created in your mind. It's getting beyond, it's way beyond the whole equality thing. I mean, let's just be real here. There's nothing equal about this. When you have to walk on eggshells for certain people, regardless of what they do, that's not equality. That's not how that works at all. Equality means the same treatment. That's the good and the bad. You don't just get to, fucking... It's sickening. It's just sickening. It's sickening to see this bullshit. Yeah, so in my mind, like, equality is... It's not... First of all, it's not real, all right? It's something we made up. But the only thing that you can do is have equality under the law. Okay? You can't, first of all, you can't force individuals to treat each other as equals. That's not even a thing that actually happens. Even in personal relationships, people don't necessarily treat each other as equal. You know, everybody has their strengths and weaknesses that they either, you know, when in a relationship, they kind of accommodate and, what's the word I'm looking for? Sort of balance each other out, okay? But this idea that everybody's just the same, nobody believes that. It's like it's one of the biggest lies in the universe that's ever been handed down to society, is like the equality narrative. And that people misconstrue that, and they're just like, so you're saying you want to mistreat everybody that isn't like you? It's like, that's not it at all. In my view, if you just pretend everybody is the same, that's actually more damaging to whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish for the good of everybody. Because you can't acknowledge real problems if you just pretend that everybody's the same. That's not how that works. I understand that, there's ways that stepping into that narrative can be misused, but you can't suppress the truth just because some people might do bad things with it. I mean, that's basically just saying that there's no faith in humanity at all, and we have to be under control. We have to be completely brainwashed in order to function, and I don't think that's true. Because I often find that the people that aren't sort of psychotic about this are actually more decent to each other than those who believe that, or that pretend they believe everybody is all the same, and that only certain people can do certain things based on whatever they are. That's been my experience, and I feel like that mirrors the experience of a lot of people, because I think that the people that are just like so delusional that they think that way they're sick. I mean, you see the things that they rant about, and the way that they portray everybody that doesn't buy into the same thing as a villain. That's not normal. We're not headed down a good path there. But I mean, this person supposedly collected like $300 off of this stupid act, and it's just, I mean, you're an idiot if you buy into this. You're stupid if you compensate somebody for doing something that is really just an empty statement to take to social media. And I'm sure that's exactly why they did it. They're like, I'm going to make a show of this so that everybody can pay attention to me. And, you put money in their pocket for nothing. If that's what you want to do, you want to be a pay pig to retard bullshit, I guess that's on you. But I think you're a fool for it. What else we got? Okay, a couple more things. Just a couple. Let me see if I want to get into this first or whatever else we have. I think this one is... Okay, we'll touch on the shirt thing real quick, because I saw somebody asking about that earlier. You know, it's the Ahego or whatever, with the fucked up faces on it. So apparently that's banned at cons now because it's too perverted or something. But it's like, if you actually... Look, I think the shirt is cringe. If you go out in public wearing that, even if you wear it in the privacy of your home, I'm not co-signing it. but if that's what you want to do, all right, it's a piece of cloth. At least it's covering your body. So it's banned from cons, but I just think that the reason behind it is silly. It's like a major double standard. Now, there are some conventions that have been getting more strict on what cosplayers can wear or whatever, sure. But I still see a lot of these people that sell their photos on Twitter and whatnot and go to these cons to, rope in new fanboys. I think they still wear some pretty questionable stuff. And it's just ridiculous. I mean, what's worse, okay? I just think about it in these terms. Like, what's worse? Is it worse to see a shirt of anime characters that aren't real, or manga characters, I guess, because it's black and white, making ridiculous faces, or the people, the actual girls that dress up in scantily clad outfits that show off their bodies at these conventions? And you're saying, oh, it's the kids, it's the kids, it's the kids. First of all, I don't know how many underage kids go to these things. Whenever I see photos, it doesn't look like there's a lot of underage kids. Maybe there's teenagers. So I don't know who you think you're protecting. But you're trying to protect them from clothing, like a shirt, rather than the actual real people that are showing off their body in a sexualized manner. It just doesn't make any sense. I feel like it's completely fake. This is just like a manufactured outrage, as you know, as many of it is. But to hold the double standard, and I'm not just making this up to have a point. On a couple of the posts where people are pointing out, well, it's like, well, you guys are getting mad at a shirt, but have you seen actual cosplayers lately? And they said, oh, it's worse because the shirt, you know, it's like pornographic or whatever. Like, wait a second. So they actually, in their minds, hold the double standard of it's okay for kids to see, you know, scantily clad actual women, but they can't see cropped faces on a shirt. And that's crazy to me. And it makes me feel like, you know, none of these people actually really have a solid belief system. It's just like, you know, it's like I said here, they just do whatever it is that has been spouted off as the popular thing to do because they know they're going to get those pats on the back for it. You know, they're going to be propped up as a fucking, you know, morally righteous person who's protecting the children. Meanwhile, they're not concerned about this whole, you know, like drag queen story hour or any of that crazy shit that could actually be, you know, damaging to the development of a child. So it's like, don't even pretend that you care about this. But that's where we're at, where it's like faking righteousness is somehow superior to, you know, actually giving a shit about something and trying to, you know, change something that might really be a problem. It's kind of absurd. But it's sort of like a consequence of, you know, people living more on social media and having all these spoon-fed narratives at every turn. It's like you can't really go anywhere to avoid it now. Which gets me into the next thing, which they're talking about high school. They're talking about cancel culture. Apparently, that's a thing. That's a thing in high school now. I don't know. Like, maybe it was a thing even back when I was in school, and we just didn't call it that. So, tales from the teenage cancel culture. What's cancel culture really like? Ask a teenager. They know. Yeah, because, you know, if I want to go to anybody for vast knowledge on a topic, clearly you want to go to teenagers. I posted oh, shit, they don't. No, they won't let me look at the whole thing. Log into what? Huh, I don't remember it being hidden behind this before. I actually looked at the whole article last night. Oh, they blocked me. Well, fuck them then. I guess I'll just have to look at the the tweet that I grabbed from it. Let me try to find it. Fuckers. Where are we at? It's just a small snippet, but it'll do. It's enough. All right. A few weeks ago, Neelam, a high school senior, was sitting in class at her Catholic school in Chicago. After her teacher left the room, a classmate began playing Bump and Grind, an R. Kelly song. Neelam, 17, had recently watched the documentary series Surviving R. Kelly with her mother. She said it had been emotional to take in as a black woman. Neelam asked the boy and his cluster of friends to stop playing the track, but he shrugged off the request. It's just a song, she said, he replied. We understand he's in jail and known for being a pedophile, but I still like his music. Okay, I mean, that's a take. Like, what's the issue there? The guy acknowledges, like, yeah, the dude's probably a piece of shit in real life, but I still like the song. I mean, to me, that's like up for every individual person to decide. Like, what do you think is more important, or does this ruin your enjoyment to the point that you can't? I think there's varying degrees for different reasons. But in this case, like, you can't control somebody's musical taste, right? So she was appalled. Of course she was. I mean, what other kind of reaction would there be in 2019? Would there even be an article if nobody was appalled? If we didn't have somebody to stand up to these oppressors? They were in a class about social justice. Now, let's let that sink in. Catholic school has classes on social justice. I mean, like, granted, I don't think any school needs a class on that, because to me it's not. And I know this is a problem with, various topics, but social justice is a very, very one-sided narrative. Now, obviously, schools to, some degree are always sort of a form of indoctrination, but this shit is running deep. This is crazy to me. They had spent the afternoon talking about Catholicism, the common good and morality. The song continued to play. I don't even see how, like, social justice and religion, even, to use one of their words, intersect. At least not in the way that they would want it to. Because, yeah, religion is about, good and having a sense of morality, but it doesn't follow their morality. In fact, a lot of the things that they support are, or at least were, commonly shunned. So it's kind of absurd to me that they're even... It's kind of like a co-opting of everything. Like, everything that you like and hold dear, and everything you're going to be taught. It's like it's all co-opted by this virus, and there's just no escaping it. Like, you have to believe. And it's kind of crazy because it's sort of like an endless loop, where they get you in the school, they tell you what you should be offended by, they dictate your emotions, and then later on they get you to to vote based on what you find offensive, the very same things that they told you were offensive. So it's like, it's the perfect way to kind of create an endless loop of people doing their bidding, and the people that are doing it don't even see it. I don't know. Like, I'm not saying you can't necessarily be a normal person that aligns with these views, but it is very, very sort of ingrained into this now, where it's like you can't really avoid it. And even if you're somebody you're taking the class and you kind of go against the grain or argue the points, rather than having that taken into account, at least in the experiences that I've come across, that I've read, you're labeled, as somebody that's, you're not on the side of good. What are you doing here? How can you argue with this? This is the right way. How dare you? That classmate who was white had done things in the past that Neelam describes as problematic, and there's that word. Wouldn't be an article without that word. Like casually using racist slurs, but not name calling. I love how they clarify this. Not name calling among friends. So it's like, it's just using words among friends, but they don't even want you to do that. Yes, you're going to control my language that I use among friends. Maybe you could make the argument of like, oh, don't do it in front of a lot of people. Okay, sure, maybe. But in the context of not even being like vitriolic and name calling, that's crazy. The level of control that they want to have over people is just so unhealthy. I'm not like, even if this was something that I agreed with, I feel like part of me would be like, this seems kind of cultish. This seems like you're really just trying to use this as a front to control people. And that to me is, that goes well beyond what should be acceptable. But they've kind of come up with the perfect system, because everybody, or at least most people, want to be viewed as a decent person, and they've come up with a really easy and, I don't want to say effective in the sense that I think it's real, but effective way for people to feel like they're good without actually having to do much good. So that even ropes more people in. It's like, oh, I'm a good person because I support X and Y. I speak out for these people, and that's enough. And so they get to move through life thinking they're good when all they're really doing is sort of perpetuating this cycle. Methods of control, canceled equals shunned. Yeah, pretty much. It's just like, it's just social ostracization, which is interesting because, these are the people that are like, well, the lonely incels or crazy shooters, and it's like, so wait a minute. You think that people who are lonely, or people who can't, get a companion, are future shooters, but your solution is to do the very thing that you believe creates them? Okay, that makes sense. Like, I think you just want more of these people to, like, if you believe that and you're still doing that, you must just want more people to go out and do crazy things so you have ammunition to put an end to them. Last all, thanks for the $5 LOL free super chat. Can't complain about free, right? Well, I guess depending on what it is, but in this case, we definitely won't complain about free. But yeah, it drives me nuts to see things like this, because it's like, yeah, okay, I mean, if you want to choose to be angry about that, that's on you, but I think you're just kind of buying into something that ultimately is looking to have complete control over everything you say, everything you do. They don't want you to have any freedom. They want you to be reliant upon this system because that keeps the loop going. That just, like, you play right into their hands. I don't know. Well, fuck that article. I guess we could skip that. I think there's like, let's see. Okay, I covered that. Just a quick aside. Anime News Network. This one crossed my path the other day. Just somebody... I think actually I might follow Anime News Network, probably just to see what they post every once in a while. I don't read their website, but their Twitter takes, So I saw this post, the Fall 2019 Light Novel Guide. More light novels than ever are being published in English. Here's your guide to what's out this season. Thanks for the lemons, TNK. Yeah, so the second I saw this, the little light bulb went off in my mind, and I'm just thinking, all right, I know that these people are not just going to give us a list of what's coming out. They're not going to do it. They can't. They can't stop themselves. They just can't stop themselves from doing it. So what did I find? I went through... and I saw they had, like, a little synopsis. So here's some takes. I didn't mark what series, but this one was from the creator of Konosuba. Humiliating and preying on the women he encounters in scenes that are clearly intended to be funny, but always have a sort of distasteful edge. Well, we wouldn't want a distasteful edge in our fiction, now would we? I mean, that would just be a crime against humanity, because apparently... fantasy and reality have no degree of separation anymore. That's just how that works. So this one they kind of praised because it also calls out a good number of misogynist issues in both the real world and in terms of fantasy tropes. Oh, it's all so tiresome, right? I mean, why? Why is it that rather than looking to fiction for entertainment, they have to look to it to see like whether or not it's calling out these issues that they see? It's like, how fun, or how devoid of fun, rather, does your life have to be to look at every piece of fiction as though it's supposed to be some sort of political mouthpiece? It's infuriating. I mean, and people are free to have, those opinions if that's what they want to do, but to then go on and demand that it all conforms to one worldview is insane. Then one of the last ones here. Okay, this is good too. This is getting back into that whole no separation. Like many other light novels, this one dabbles in notions of slavery, with Haruhito first renting and then purchasing a female lizard man. She's called a mercenary, but she's still basically sold to him. It's like, oh, okay, so we're gonna ignore the fact that it's called, the character's called a mercenary, but we'll just put the label of slave on there. Now, I haven't read the book, so I don't know if it's true that this is just a situation of straight up slavery. But a mercenary is a paid helping hand, so I could see, I mean, slaves usually don't get paid, right? So I could see how easy in their minds the conflation would be. But to act like, well, because real life slavery is bad, that means we can never depict it in fiction unless it's, some sort of woke fantasy like Mortal Kombat 11's ending that you can't feature it. That's crazy. You're trying to control people's imaginations. Like, why not just insert the microchip directly into their brain now? Because that's where you're headed. Like, oh, and then every time they have a bad thought, it'll just give you a shock. And then if you keep having the thought, first you get a fine, then you get a couple days in jail, maybe a couple years, then you get executed, right? Just get them the fuck right up out of here. No wrong think in this civilized society. Like, fuck off, man. Just get out of here. Oh, I didn't mean to close that. Twitter's doing this weird thing lately where I get kicked off of my posts. Then the last one. Okay. What's less great are those girls for the most part. I understand. It kind of sucks having the context clip, but I just wanted to focus on these points that they made. They're obviously supposed to be parodies of genre tropes, at least to a degree, but a couple of them go just a bit too far for things to work. The so-called belt princess is the extreme who works decently well, living primarily in her delusions about she and Lloyd as destined lovers. She's just a teensy bit yandere. But the lolly grandma, who Lloyd thinks of as his actual parent, crosses a lot of lines in her romantic pursuit of him. Not to mention gets pretty annoying very quickly. Lloyd definitely doesn't consent. Uh-oh. No fictional consent to any of the romantic actions the ladies try to land him, and that takes away from the humor. Fortunately, the rest of the book is a good time, so if you can stomach that aspect of it. Because, you have to feel sickened. Like, if you don't express that you disavow this, you have to, like, just pretend you're completely sick by it. Hey, Megazuna, what's up? Okay, so, yeah, that's just the typical bullshit I expect from Anime News Network. It's crazy that it's so predictable now that you can just know how they're going to react to these things. Completely absurd. Do you want to bother with this? Okay, so ACLU put out a post on International Men's Day, which, look, all these holidays are kind of cringe to me, but if you're going to have those holidays, then yeah, I guess you got to have one of these, right? There's no one way to be a man. Men who get their periods are men. Men who get pregnant and give birth are men. Trans and non-binary men belong. Hashtag International Men's Day. So they still have to manage to make it about somebody else other than just men. Which is crazy. But they're kind of using that manipulative sort of, no one way to be a man, which in a sense is true because there's differences between individuals who happen to be men. But what they're doing is they're using that to ignore the undeniable category that is male. It's crazy. And of course, I don't know anybody that still cares about this person, but Shuon had replied to this. Trans men are born female and have uteruses and get periods and shit. All the boomers like science is dead rip are making me fucking scream. This is science. It's like, okay. No, it's not. It's not science, okay? That's because, and there were people like claiming she's right. The only thing that she's right about is that they're females who have uteruses and get periods. But it's still absurd to agree with this post, because this post is not differentiating. So like I said in this post, you can't even trust science anymore because it's being retconned to validate the whims of weirdos instead of seeking the objective truth, regardless of what that may be. And I stand by that statement because it's become so politicized that it's hard to say whether or not, the information that's being put out there is, okay, is that factual, or is that being used as a way to say, oh, this is scientific, therefore you can't disagree with it because you're anti-science if you do. And we know how that game goes. I just don't, I completely reject the premise. My point is that I completely reject the premise that trans men are men, which is the idea that they're trying to feed you. They're not men, okay? They think they're men for some reason, but that's not, just because I think something in my head, that doesn't manifest it into reality. And nobody really, that's just being ignored now in favor of, I have to support this because I'm a bad person if I don't. People will literally die if I don't support this. Yeah, there's some sort of condition that where she pulls out and munches on her own hair. I don't know. I forgot what it's called. Something with a T, but yeah, you can look it up. There's some sort of weird condition out there. I don't know. I don't know where that comes from. That's kind of wild to me. But yeah, it's just more of that manipulation to get you to accept things that are just wrong on a fundamental level. It's wrong. I don't care what people think they are. That doesn't change the nature of reality, okay? And it doesn't matter how many studies that you put out that try to tell me otherwise. Common sense dictates that this is not real. This person is just somebody that is like obsessed with defending the trans narrative at every turn. So of course they're just going to, buy into this and spread it as the truth. rather than focusing on things that might actually help people. And that to me is one of the funniest things, where it's like they claim to care about these people so much, and yet for the astronomical rate of sunsets, let's just say, that, you know, they attempt, somehow they still believe that just blind enabling is the answer here. And I didn't pull it up, but there's also an article that just came out, and I'm kind of surprised to see that it actually came out, just because of the narrative that it presents, which is opposite of what they usually like to accept. Hundreds of young trans people seeking help to return to original sex. A woman who detransitioned in 2018 says there are many people who have had gender reassignment surgery who wish they hadn't. Imagine my shock with how grotesque and invasive that surgery is. Yeah, I see anywhere between like 41 and 47%. So it's up there. It's pretty crazy. But yeah, this is not a shock to me. I mean, the surgery, my mind is blown when I think about the fact that that is something that doctors are allowed to do to people on a whim. Now you can say, oh, it's not a whim, they have to go through this whole process, but still, it's not, it goes completely against the nature of reality. And so, to me, it kind of makes sense that eventually you would come to terms with and be like, oh, I fucked up. Bad. Can you even go back? I mean, when you go through a surgery of that degree, I guess depending on what part of the procedures you get done, like, how much of that can you reverse? Because I'm imagining not much. Especially if you completely hack up your genitals. I don't know what they can do to repair that. And it's kind of sick because it's probably just like, you know, for the plastic surgeons, it's probably more about just like profiting than it is, you know, bringing any kind of help to people. There's really not much they could do. Yeah, well, I mean, look, all the hormones and whatnot too, there's things that probably does, and of course going under the knife, that's a big one. It's absurd. And I don't know, it's kind of crazy that this is where we're at, and it's sort of it's difficult to push back against in a meaningful capacity, right? Because I could sit here and rant about how crazy and delusional and sick that it is, but that doesn't really do much. And, you know, most people that listen to this are going to probably agree with that. The fact that it's not a good thing, but that doesn't really affect much, you know, in reality, which is unfortunate. Children will get it soon. Well, I saw another post where I lost track of it, unfortunately. I probably should have saved it. Where they were talking to a doctor who had removed breast tissue from teenagers as young as 13 because they thought they were male. And it's just like, first of all, what kind of parent signs off on that? What could you be thinking in your mind? And, you know, I think part of that is the whole, there's a saying out there where it's like, would you rather have a dead son or a living daughter? Where it's like, they're basically trying to guilt parents into allowing their kid to transition by claiming if you don't, it's your fault when they kill themselves. Which is beyond disturbing. Now, I'm not saying that anybody should fall for that, but let's be realistic. People are dumb, and they fall for stupid things and they do dumb things. So that, yeah, I imagine that happens. And you even see where parents write about their personal experiences, and we've covered a couple of articles on this show where they talk about, the lady had two transgender daughters, or, well, male to female, right, or whatever. How do you end up with two kids that don't want to be the gender that they were born as? I don't believe that for a second, especially with a condition that's supposed to be so fucking rare relative to, the rest of the population. But you see the way they write about it. I think even that woman used that quote where it's like, yeah, I would rather have my kid alive than dead. So I just, that's a good idea. That was the best thing for them. Like, I don't know, man. I mean, couldn't you? Maybe I'm just so disillusioned, but like, wouldn't you at least respect your dead kid more for, being what they are? Like, I don't know. It's just wild and completely nuts to me. Hope most of you are feeling the winter. Yeah, there's snow here. 40% post-op suicide rate. So yeah, a lot of people try to say that that's not the case, but the things that I've seen have agreed with that. Wow, okay, that's an interesting question. Most creative thing I've ever done. Probably, I used to do a lot of songwriting. Maybe some fiction stuff. Those are the creative outlets that I like. I actually have to get myself back into writing again because that's something I miss doing. Or at least writing for, my creative benefit rather than the other stuff, which is just, the same bullshit narratives we hear day in and day out. I don't know if I have that recording on the PC, but I guess I could play out the stream if I do. Because I don't really have much in the way of recording software, so this is like one of the things that I was able to get a recording of. Why spend money on something that makes no difference? Think of how many poverty-stricken people we feel with that, actually save lives. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of crazy to me that, and especially like the funding that's going towards things like figuring out how to install. I say install because it's funnier to say it that way. So if you think that's weird, I'm doing it for comedic purpose. Like install a womb inside of a trans woman. It's like, is that something we really need? Like, no, a person should come with the understanding that if that's something that they want to do to their body, then they're forfeiting their ability to reproduce. Like, we shouldn't have to jump through these scientific loopholes to accommodate that to the point where we're wasting resources that could be obviously better used elsewhere. But that's the popular narrative right now. Want to play God. Yeah, well, the thing about that is, they are perfectly okay with doing that because, they don't have any sort of solid belief in anything like that. There is no higher power. They are the higher power in their own minds. And so it doesn't matter how far they go, because the further they go, that's just progress. That's, there's no limit to progress. You just keep going and going and going. And that's why this bullshit is so insane, because there is no limit. There is no standard. It's just whatever we can label as progress. And then you just head down that road and keep going. The progress never ends. Let's see. Let me see if I can find that. Although I understand that me browsing my music collection is not going to make for a very noisy stream. I had considered uploading at least one of them to YouTube at some point, but since since I've been like so out of practice, I just haven't thought of it because it's like, oh well, it's kind of promoting it as new, but it's not really. Okay, well, it's been a stream. It's been about an hour and a half, so I think we're gonna cut it here. But I'll play it out with this, and I just called it Slow Song because I'm a very creative individual when it comes to names. All right, so thank you everybody for watching, and I appreciate the donations, the super chat, and the lemons over on DLive. And I'm not 100% sure yet, but might do a game stream later. Haven't decided completely, but if so, Twitter will be the place where I'll post about that. Oh, is the box? Does it actually have shit in it? Okay, I'll open it. I didn't realize because I've been streaming. I've been streaming so much I forgot about it. But I guess 81, that's not bad. You guys will benefit from that pretty good, I'm sure, since there's only like a couple of chat participants. So enjoy. All right, I'll see you guys later, and we'll play it out.